Wednesday night, yet again, we are ready to do another Auburn Family Night edition where we take your calls, your questions, and comments and get into anything that you want to talk about that's related to Auburn, starting right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, and spending some time talking about something that's related to Auburn, whether it's about sports, whether it's about Buc-ee's, which we've talked a lot about here at E2C Network as of late, whether it's about anything that you can tie back to the orange and blue because it's what we do. That's what we're going to do here tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here. As you come into the stream, a lot of you know the drill. Do help us out, even if you're a person who's been here for a long time. But if you're new, we'd like to start off by checking in. Post where you're watching from right now. Real quick, just your city, your state, international. If you're international, we got somebody checking from Panama the other day, which was really cool. All that with a War Eagle. And of course, finish that off by smashing the like button if you enjoyed this type of content. So that is a huge help. And we appreciate you all for being able to do things for us tonight. Let me set the table for you guys. Obviously, I know most of our discussion on Wednesday night centralizes around sports, and so that's probably where it'll be. We've got 8A to talk about, the washout that it was, the Frank Thomas statue, obviously baseball, softball, track and field, tennis, golf are all, and equestrian are rounding out their national title run or in session sport-wise. Buc-ee's opened up. We're getting closer to graduation. Summer of Auburn stuff is going to be coming up. I want to do something different this year with, like, when we get to summer, there's no sports, like a summer of Auburn or something like that. We'll talk about that later. But obviously, all of those things that we can talk about, I want to share some opinions and thoughts that I have about. But what's most important about tonight is your opinions, and you can do that by posting in the chat right now as we go throughout the stream as well. You can also call into the show. It's brought to you by our friends at All Things Auburn. You'll see me bring their logo up whenever I can get to it, right there up in the top corner as we go throughout the stream tonight. The call-in link is always brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. We'll talk about them later on in the show, and we want to hear from you tonight, so don't be shy. Call in if you can. It would be great to hear some voices and maybe even see some smiling faces. You can be on camera or off camera. You have the choice. A couple of people checking in. Derek from Gunnersville, good to see you. Thanks for being here. WT from Pelham, and then Leeds, Alabama, Thomasville. So that's a nice little cross section of central to upper Alabama there. Maybe that north, getting towards that northwest. Well, Pelham's a little bit south, though, isn't it? So central to northeast, I guess I should say. Get your directions right, Kyle, of check-ins already. So you guys are well represented. We need to see our people from Texas, from Florida, Iowa. Where's Spooky Buffalo been? He hasn't been here in a few days. Love to hear from him if he's there watching in the background. Anyway, I do have an update on Austin, you guys. Austin, those of you that are regulars who will know, we do the Auburn Experience podcast, which is our banner show, the flagship show, whatever you'd like to call it, the main show with myself and Austin Scott. We talk about sports, Auburn culture, and the Auburn family. And he will not be back this week. We will still be doing a show on Sunday at 9 Eastern time. Don't miss that. We'll talk about it later. But he will, hopefully, the plan is to have him back the next Sunday. So those of you that know, he has been out on paternity leave from us of sorts after, obviously not him, but his wife giving birth to two beautiful twin boys. And we're going to be excited to have him back in about 2 weeks, a week and a half, to talk about those things. So just wanted to pass that update along to you all. And since he and I talked today, been trying to give him some much deserved rest and time off. All right. I think that's enough of boilerplate stuff. Updates. We'll get into some more of that as the stream goes, I'm sure, tonight. So let me start off with this. I think, obviously, most people's minds is still centralized around football right now. Spring practice wrapped up, obviously, with 8A, how it went, the things that we think we saw, things that we think we can take away, all of those things. Obviously, it maybe would be a great thing to start with tonight. I was there. For most of you know this if you follow us on social media. We were there sharing images and videos and all kinds of content from A-Day, even with horrible weather. Turned out to be a very fun and productive extended weekend in Auburn for many reasons. But while we're still sticking on the topic of A-Day, I walked away from this A-Day not being disappointed, but obviously the rain kind of made it hard to really accomplish what little you could accomplish with this type of game. Coach Freeze went into this really expressing and hoping for people to not get too settled in what they see or what they thought they saw. And even with that warning, that caveat going into it still was a little bit underwhelming to me. And obviously around the weather making things absolutely miserable. I mean, it rained from about 10 o'clock on nonstop in some form or fashion. I think once or twice. Sorry, my nose is really itchy because I was out doing yard work. But the rain got bad a handful of times, but it just constantly rained and it made it miserable. It was cold. It was windy. It was not a fun A-Day to be at. And so probably one of the least attended A-Days that I have seen in quite some time, but for good reason. Nothing. I fully believe with the Frank Thomas statue unveiling, the baseball weekend that was supposed to happen the way it was supposed to happen and had to be kind of adjusted because of weather. I fully believe that would have been an incredible A-Day weekend with the right weather. We had about, low of 55 overnight, high of 75. Whoo, buddy. That place would have been packed to the brim. Chris, good to see you. Thanks for checking in for Virginia, by the way. I brought you up, but I wanted to acknowledge it too. WT talking about Austin. If he just had a baby, he is not going to know rest for a few years. Speaking with experience as a father of 2 precious children. Well, I'm sure you love them, so congratulations to that. Yeah, I talked to him via text. He and I have not talked via phone in the last 2+ weeks since that all went down. And mainly because, as he told me today in text, as you can imagine, I don't have a free hand to usually answer a phone call right now. And I figured as much when I called him, but I said, well, I'll give it a shot. But as far as I know, everything's going well. He took him to Buc-ee's this weekend. I know that they made it over there, and we just missed each other by about like an hour, which really frustrates me because, man, it'd been fun to go through Buc-ee's with Austin. That was a fun time down there. We're going to talk about that, but I know we could spend a lot extra time talking about that. Thomas says, and we got to meet for the first time in person. He says, buddy, it was straight up miserable in the stands. I hate it more for the recruits down there than I do for me as a fan. Obviously, for us as fans, for those of us that wanted to be there, we know what we're getting ourselves into, but you're really trying to sell yourself. But here's what I will say about that from the fan, from the recruit perspective, from what was able to happen. I think the fans put on a pretty good showing, especially at Tiger Walk. The crowd kind of amassed very quickly and formed into kind of a very raucous crowd given the conditions and given the size that was of the crowd that was going to come because of those conditions. I was very impressed with that. So I think there were some good things that happened with A-Day recruiting wise. Obviously, you haven't seen the fruit of that yet. And I think that is what most people look at as like, well, it wasn't successful because we didn't get a commit. Hold your horses, folks. Just hold your horses. All right, we got our first caller, so let's go ahead and say hi to him tonight. You know him, you love him. He is Mr. Positivity. What is going on, sir? Here, I'll pull you up right there. There you are, Mr. Kevin. How you doing? Uh-oh.
Hey, where you go? I think with next season.
Say that one more time. You broke up a little bit.
I think we can get Cam Coleman to Auburn.
You think, I see that in your first comment that you made, that you think Cam Coleman's going to commit. Yeah, I think a lot of that momentum started, for those, let me put context for the people that don't know. Cam Coleman is a very highly regarded wide receiver from Alabama. He has been to Auburn a lot recently, and one or two were surprises. And a lot of people think that he is the next one to commit. I've also seen some crystal balls and other websites going to other players. But yeah, Cam Coleman is probably, if you're a betting person, he's the one you put your money on be the next commit.
And I hope we get the Marcus Reddick.
DeMarcus Reddick. Yep. Let's see. Was it D'Angelo Barber? I'm trying to remember all the names that are circulating right now.
Where's D'Angelo Barber from?
I actually haven't done a lot of looking up. I mean, you know me, Kevin. I don't spend a lot of time focusing on the guys until they commit, just because I can't do that anymore because I became too obsessive about it. So I know the general stuff. That's about it.
It's great to be a Auburn Tiger. I know that.
Absolutely. So amen to that. And amen. We need that plastered across everything, because Lord knows people need to be reminded of that sometimes. You'd think that they'd never been through any adversity in their life and forget about that.
We found a point guard.
We did. We got a commit from basketball. I forgot to mention that at the very top of everything. He's not a point guard, though, unless I missed something. I've been checked out today. So,
and
but
they say that Devin Cambridge might come back.
So yeah, I'll kind of sum up what you're saying here. So why am I blanking on his name right now? My goodness, Kyle, you're better than this. The guard, the 6'4" guard from FIU. Somebody help a brother out here and tell me his name. It is escaping me. I did a video about him, and for some reason I can't get it. But anyway, he committed, obviously on the roster already. They released the roster for the upcoming season online on the website. A lot of people are talking about that today. Alan Flanagan is no longer on that roster, but he has not made an announcement as to my knowledge. Wes Flanagan, the assistant coach. We all knew this was coming, but he's officially not on the coaching staff listings anymore. But everybody else that hasn't announced anything yet is still up there. So there's been rumors that Devin Cambridge may be wanting to come back, all those kind of things. I don't know, Kevin, I'll be honest with you. I'm having trouble buying into the Devin Cambridge coming back thing. And now this is me saying this and probably going to be completely wrong. And I'll, if I remember to, I'll share this out in a repeat so people can remind me how stupid I am. But I don't know why you would come back. Like, unless you just love Auburn, which that's awesome, and you love Bruce Pearl, and you just really wanted to go away and play with your brother for 1 year. But to me, I don't know. It seems a little too good to be true, and I hope I'm wrong.
How about the Alabama commit?
You have to be a little bit more specific. Which one? Because remember, I don't follow until they commit. I don't really spend a lot of time on them.
From Foley, Alabama, and Mobile Christian. Sterling Dixon.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to have a lot of information on that one because, like I said, I just don't spend a lot of time on them until they commit.
Yeah, hopefully our baseball team will beat Alabama.
Yeah, big weekend series, right? After a heartbreaker last night on a grand slam walk-off to Georgia Tech. We talked about that on a live stream last night. We really could use a series win. We really could use a series sweep. And what better way to do it against your rival in Alabama at their place?
And our softball team is 29-12.
They're doing very well. When you talk about comparing baseball to softball and how they're doing comparatively, obviously it seems like softball gives you a little bit more to be excited about at the moment. But it's a long season, ebbs and flows and all that. And it's tough to be successful in SEC baseball this year. And it is in SEC softball too, but they seem to be poised to do a little bit, or at least to be in a little bit more momentum right now. So good roundup though of the spring sports.
I like my favorite Auburn player is Demario Austin.
Demario Austin is a good pick. He'll likely be in consideration as the number 2 running back. I would think that obviously Jarquez being number 1, and then it's probably like I don't even want to call him a 2B and A, but like maybe a 1.5 A and B, Brian Body and Demario Austin. So that's a good pick. All right. So how about this? You give me to round out our conversation. I want to ask you a question related to A-Day. Who do you think played better, the offense or the defense? It was a tie, but who do you think played better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, the offense played better.
You think so? Because they got back up and scored very quickly at the end there. You think they played a little
Yeah,
bit better?
yeah.
I think there were some good things from the offense. Not a lot,
Just,
just because they were
Justin
very
Jones,
tame.
good.
Say it again.
Justin Jones, back running back.
Yeah, he was nice to see him and Sean Jackson do as well as they did. So,
Yeah.
well, buddy, I hope we'll get to see each other this fall when the games start back, since we didn't get to meet each other at A-Day. But as always, it's good to hear you on every Wednesday night call, Kevin. Thanks for calling in.
War Eagle.
All right, good to hear from you, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that was Kevin. You guys can call in too, just like Kevin. So please do not be shy. Hit the call-in link, and you can be on camera like he was, or you can be off camera, like just a little show your name, and that's it. I know it can be intimidating to be actually your face up there, but yeah. So take advantage of that in any way you'd like to. Would love to hear from some of you guys tonight. So obviously he did a pretty good roundup of everything that's been going on, and nobody helped me earlier when I was asking the commit's name that I did a video about. Tells you how busy I have been of late. Denver Jones, there it is. I finally found it for myself. Denver Jones, a commit that I feel like everybody thought was coming. It makes everybody happy as well that he was considering Alabama heavily and chose Auburn. From what I understand on the Twitter sphere, there were some Alabama fans that did not take that loss of a recruit to the Auburn Tigers as well as they could have. And in a sick, twisted way, that makes me super happy. Doesn't say a lot about me, but I'm not going to also lie. Anytime I see, in the non-important things, but in the keeping it within the context of sports and things like that, them suffering a little bit, it always brings a little bit of a joy to my heart and to a smile to my face. So we can talk some about him. Obviously, the bigger basketball news today is the roster being put up online, which I don't know if that's when they normally do that. So I found that interesting. Yeah, it was quite interesting that that's what happened, and what also led people to go check it. That tells me that somebody got a tip from somebody. Go check the roster online and see what's up there. So it'll be interesting. Is to my knowledge, Alan Flanagan has not even acknowledged any intentions to leave. I'm actually going to go check that as I'm saying it right now. Because let's see, Flanny, where are you? Yep, I do not see anything on Twitter from him acknowledging his decision to leave or not, but he's not on the roster. And maybe it's not on there because he has made it clear that he wants to explore options such as NBA draft and things like that, and maybe come back. Maybe he just really hasn't made up his mind. I do find it interesting that they haven't, Jalen and Allen yet haven't announced their intentions, and it leads me to believe the longer this went that they both were going to stay. Obviously, with Wes Flanagan leaving on the coaching staff, his father, that makes that a little bit interesting of a dynamic if that were not to correlate, meaning he goes somewhere else, either opposite of him or just somewhere else in general. I don't know. A lot of interesting moving pieces still with the roster and the coaching staff of the basketball team. It's going to look a lot different next year. I mean, a lot different. Wendell's gone. Traor's gone. Chance Westry's gone. Chandler Leopard's gone. Babatunde's gone. And I know those last two guys you didn't see a lot of, but they're still part of the team and some part of the mesh that puts that team together. Can you say that Denver Jones is coming to the right place at the right time? Is there a joke I'm missing there? Giving me the wink emoji or the wink signal. I got it. I got it. I got it right. I got it. Wow. Tells you how long, or how quickly my mind is starting to shut off from basketball season. The fact that I've forgotten that quote. That's well played, WT. Obviously off of the Nate Oates, wrong place at the wrong time, the right place at the right time. Yeah, I think he feels the same way. You know, I'm trying to wrap my head around all this roster turnover, not in the sense that I'm panicking or anything like that, because I've stressed that to everybody who follows us, who watches our channel. Don't panic about all the roster turnover, but what to make of the team going forward. With so much potential change, not just at the roster level, but at the coaching level too. I mean, Wes Flanagan's an integral piece, and it's the more things that continue to happen as time goes on, kind of starts to answer some other questions for me. You know, when Bruce Pearl signed his lifetime contract, it's not, I don't think they call it a lifetime contract, but essentially is, carries him to the end of his coaching career with Auburn. You know, the rumors were there was some discussion and stipulations to who would carry over in his stead once he steps down or retires or whatever. And a lot of people believe that was going to be, you know, Stephen Pearl. And I think with the departure of Wes Flanagan, that kind of makes that a little bit more evident. Unless he just wants to go cut his teeth somewhere else before he's the heir apparent. Because if he goes off and has some good success, you know, maybe as he's going to be an assistant coach at Ole Miss apparently, but maybe in a couple of years, if he takes the head coaching job and does a really good job there, then maybe we start going, hello. But who knows? Thomas says we are losing a lot, but the freshmen coming in and the transfer portal, we aren't in a bad spot. Speculatively, we are in a good spot. I know you understand this, Thomas, but I'm saying this for the good of the collective Auburn fan base. You know, we put so much into these kids based off of some arbitrary star quotes about them based off of tape, which tells you some things, but also you have to keep in mind that these tapes are from high school. So we also have to keep that in mind when we are saying we're not going to be in a good or a bad spot one way or the other. I think obviously I don't say obviously because I have to approve it, but I feel like I come off as a very optimistic person. So my inclination is to lean the way of what Thomas is saying, that with the speculative nature of how they look, we're in a good spot. But just for the collective, I feel like I need to say that for some reason. Maybe it's not my place to say it, but hey, I said it. WT says, I trust in Coach Pearl to have the program ready for the new season. He is the best coach in the SEC as far as I'm concerned. Well, he's got a SEC Coach of the Year award, a couple of SEC regular season and tournament titles to his resume. When you compare that and stack that up, just based on those type of things alone, he's up there. You know, until John Calipari leaves, I mean, he's going to be the best in the SEC. You know, to me, whether we're talking coaches, programs, it's really right now the world of the Kentucky, Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, and this season, Alabama. But as I said to you guys about Alabama all season, that there's been a lot of hype about them since Nate Oates got here, and they've not been able to match that hype. Now, they did a little bit this season, a little bit. I'd like to see them maintain it for more than one season before I say they've arrived as a program alongside the the Tennessees, the Kentuckys, the Arkansas, the Auburns, and Auburn had a down year. We all know that, but still one of the premier programs currently of the SEC as it stands at this moment. Now, if it continues to trend the opposite direction, we can have that discussion again. But for now, that is the case. Still talking a lot of basketball. I mean, I know we're, in the wake of all of the transfers and stuff like that, but I'm surprised we haven't switched over to 8A talk yet. I think that speaks a lot about the 8A game and what you weren't able to take from it. But obviously, we'll get there in a little bit. Calipari is doing it at a blue blood that recruits itself to do it at a program like Auburn has been historically. That's a great coach. And that's a good point. That is a good point. And I think that's one of the things that makes generally Coach Pearl so respected is what he's been able to do from Auburn, who arguably was one of the worst shapes as a basketball program in terms of the major conference programs at the time. I think what he's done is just been nothing short of miraculous, considering where we're at. And no, Coach Barbie, it wasn't because of the fact that we have Under Armour. He was quoted as saying you can't win with Under Armour, and that's just not true. He's proven that wrong. I know that opens the door to everybody now. Oh, let's get rid of Under Armour. Don't worry, we'll all be covering that, I'm sure, at some point, because it does feel like it's a dying brand. But either way, you can win as an Under Armour school. So yes, Coach Pearl is one of the best in the SEC, and he has done it with much less. Calipari walked into a traditional power, and he's still got to put in the work. You know, Tubby Smith walked into Kentucky with all that comes with the pageantry of being part of their basketball program. And, you know, I'm trying to look him up as we speak right now. I don't remember exactly what his he was at Kentucky from 1997 to 2007. And trying to see here. When they won the NCAA tournament in 1998. Yeah, that's about it for him. Just one appearance and one Final Four appearance and one championship. But obviously he couldn't maintain it long term. See, that's all I knew for the longest time was Tubby Smith and Kentucky were unbeatable. And then as time went on, you were like, wait a minute, they are beatable. Even with Calipari. It's funny. You thought in the time where Calipari arrived at Kentucky, that was the end of college basketball. Nobody else was going to win again. And it's been very manageable. It just speaks to the level of coaching and recruiting that's going on at other SEC schools and across the country. That just because a name comes to a name doesn't mean it's an instant success. It's got to be a right fit. Auburn and Bruce Pearl were a right fit. And I think that is continuing to show there. All right, we'll take an opportunity here in between topics. We'll probably shift a little bit unless there's some other comments about it. But I want to remind you of our friends at allthingsauburn.net. You can see their logo up at the top of our screen right now. I want to thank them for bringing the call link every single Wednesday night for you all to take advantage of if you choose to do so, because it is an open mic night. Would love to hear from some of you guys. But do check them out at allthingsauburn.net. Great place for you to stay when you're at Auburn, especially right now during baseball and softball season and so many other things that happen at Auburn in the spring. But you can also have a full and complete Auburn experience there because Miss Tanya will take care of you. So visit them at allthingsauburn.net and find a place to stay, but also to have the full Auburn experience, which we love to talk about here. As if it was right on cue, one of our guys is just calling in that we love to talk to. Let's say hello to him right now. We got Mr. Thomas Manville on the line. What is going on, sir? You there?
War Eagle, buddy. How are you this evening?
War Eagle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger.
It absolutely is. It was a pleasure to get to meet you in person finally at A-Day weekend in a rainy situation.
Yeah, absolutely terrible weather day. But, yeah, it was great to meet you as well. I was walking the Tiger Walk, and I'm going, he said he's only about, and I stopped, and I went, hey, that's Kyle. So it worked out perfect.
Well, there was no banner for me to stand in front of this time. So it made it a little bit more difficult to have a central location to meet, as I always recommend you guys do. Whenever there's a Tiger Walk, find me at the Tiger Walk, and that's going to be our official meetup point. But I found, obviously, right there at the front of the entrance to the recruiting center and stuff like that. So it was good to see you, good to meet some of your family and hang out just for a little bit in person. It's always fun to hang out virtually. But, you know, handshakes and hugs and all that are more valuable. So I appreciate getting to meet you.
Absolutely, man. I had a great time. It was a miserable day at A-Day. I sat in the stands. I was almost far enough under the overhang to not get rained on the whole time. But I sat there huddled in a rain jacket watching the game for most of it. But I still enjoyed my time there. I got to see a little bit of the Hugh Freeze era, and I'm excited about some things, but I'm skeptical about others.
Yeah, it's really difficult to take away some solid stuff from any A-Day game, but especially this one. And he warned us, as I mentioned at the top of the show, that don't expect much here. And boy, was he not kidding, because it was basically we are going to run the ball, and we might throw the ball every
Yeah.
so often, and not really a lot to get excited about throwing the ball wise. And I think that was by design, mostly given situation, given conditions, all that stuff. But, outside of what was it? Robbie Ashford to Tavares Dawson bomb. That was about the most exciting thing we had all day.
Yeah, it really was. And the weather completely ruined the passing game. And it's not just because the ball's slippery and it's hard to throw and it's hard to catch. The ball's waterlogged at that point. So it's heavier, but we didn't have any turnovers, which was great. Especially running the ball. I think it was the final tally was 292 rushing yards, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Uh,
Right there in the 290s. So, we got to see Justin Jones, Jordan Ingram's gone. Justin Jones, Sean Jackson shine, which is common for 8A games, where especially running backs wise, you let the lower down the depth chart guys get to take center stage. Now, Sean Jackson, to me, continues to show that he deserves a rep or two during a game just from sheer size alone, and he bowled over some guys. So if I want to talk about entertaining things from A-Days, that's got to be one for me too.
Oh, absolutely. The running game was phenomenal. Like you said, we saw a bunch of different guys, but man, Sean Jackson, like that was a special performance. He was just a absolute battering ram all day long. And I think he might have earned himself some carries during the season, but it's a
Thomas, you still there? We might have lost you a little bit. You still there?
yeah, I'm here.
All right,
Hopefully.
we got you again. Go ahead and try that again.
Just A-Day in general, the running game, we had a lot of guys that got some great carries. Sean Jackson was a huge part of it. You had Jones that came in, he's a walk-on, and they played well, but it's A-Day, so your big guys are not running the ball that much, and I'm okay with it. It's a practice game. It's a televised scrimmage, and we could pay $10 and go in there and watch it. But I mean, Jarquez Hunter is an absolute unit at a running back position. I mean, he just is. He's going to be great. DeMar Austin really out in his couple carries he had. He really did.
Yep. Well, I think what we take away, if you want to talk about solid takeaways, is that even in a rainy situation, our running back room is solid. We got to see mostly the lower part of the depth chart, but still you can see what the different skill sets of each of these guys is, whether we're talking about Jarquez, whether we're talking about Damari, whether we're talking about Brian Body, where we're talking about Sean Jackson, all the way down to Justin Jones. Auburn's got no problems at running back. The questions remain at the quarterback, and really we're not going to know a couple of days here. I think it's the 15th, if I'm correct, that the transfer portal opens up, or the 16th, one of the two. Okay. And obviously either that day or preceding that day, we'll find out if any quarterbacks are going to make a decision to move on somewhere else. And that would be probably, to me, an indicator that someone's coming, at least to compete, if not win the job. But to me, it looks like still it's Robbie Ashford's job to lose, just based on performance in a given situation alone.
No, I'll agree with that. I think it's his job to lose. I agree with that. I dislike it, but at the same time, I think it's necessary. I do think TJ Finley's gone. He all but said it depends on if they take something in the portal or not, what he does.
Yep. We're starting to lose you again.
I hope he improves and he stays. I hope he improves and I hope he stays, but I really don't think, based on some of his comments, that he will stay. So I think that opens that slight transfer portal window to probably, maybe two other quarterbacks. Because if you lose somebody with starting experience, you got to bring in somebody with starting experience. So why not get two guys that have experience, try to compete with Ashford, see where they can go with that. But if we start today, Ashford QB1, and we're going to base it off the run game, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's probably what you're going to see regardless of the quarterback situation, because if you do bring in a stud, we'll call it a stud, whoever that is, they're still only getting here in the summer, maybe even later than that, maybe like almost till the fall, until fall practice starts. So that's not a lot of time to get up to speed with the program, much less the playbook, much less, being a leader out there. Because even if you're a natural given leader, it takes time to establish that rapport with your teammates. So you're going to find probably situational football here where we lean on something that we feel like we can do well. We can't take solid information about the offensive line yet. From what we saw out there, didn't look horrible, which given the last few years isn't saying much, but it's still an improvement in those type of conditions. So maybe Auburn does lean on what we know is that this running back group is solid. You got a lot of options, a lot of different skill sets. If you want to power the ball in the mud, give it to Sean Jackson, but you still got that top group there of Damari, Jarquez, and now Brian Body that are really going to be someone that you can lean on for the team in general, but for a quarterback, whoever that is trying to establish themselves in this new offense.
No, I agree with you. And if you bring in a quarterback, he to be someone that can compete with Robbie Ashford and make him better, or he has to be the guy. And Hugh Free said it. They have to have the values, they have to fit with the culture, all of that when you bring in a transfer. But you mentioned the offensive line, and as we know, that's my thing.
That's why I brought it up.
I got no. So, dang it.
Hey, Thomas. Thomas, try one more time. Start over. There you go.
Can you hear me?
We got you again. Go ahead again.
All right. So, he did a really good job at left tackle. I'm really happy with him being. Oh man. Hey, we may just have to try next week, man. The internet is wonky.
Yeah, I can see that. Hey, save those thoughts, though. Let's talk offensive line. I would like to get your opinions about that next week when maybe we got a little bit better connection. So let's put a pin in that, and we'll talk about it next week. Share some thoughts, though, in the chat as you're watching.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good evening.
All right. Good to hear from you, Thomas. All right. Good friend Thomas checking in with us. Always good to hear from him, too. And as I said, I love meeting you guys in person. When you see me out there at Auburn or anywhere, please come up and say hello. Please do. That's the reason that I do what I do, because it lets me know that someone cares and gives me the energy and drive to keep trying to do this. We're not the biggest content creator out there. I wouldn't say that we're the best, but we're not trying to also emulate exactly anybody else. We're trying to do our own thing. And I think sometimes that kind of makes it not as attractive to as many people, but we really value the people that continue to be here time and time again and come back. And then the new faces that we get to meet. We've seen new faces pop in even recently. That's why we do what we do, because of this building this little family within the Auburn family, and we appreciate you guys so much. So I say all that to say the example of meeting Thomas in person. That's why we do this thing. So you guys are awesome. So kind of rounding out those thoughts about A-Day. We talked a lot about the offense there. I don't remember, and I was really trying to watch the defense. I think the only thing that I wouldn't call it a concern given the conditions of the day. Tackling looked a little bit less secure in that situation. And this comes off of Coach Hugh Freeze saying that he was impressed with the tackling in practice. But so I have to think that maybe it was the conditions of the play that lent to that. What else? I'm trying to think if there was anything big that stuck out to me from that. There were a few sacks, or what you would consider sacks in those situations. We got to see Alex McPherson kick in bad conditions. And I can, like Thomas was talking about when he called in a second ago about the ball being waterlogged and how that makes a difference at that certain point when it's that wet all the time. Take it from a kicker. There was a game when we played Tuscaloosa Academy. Yes, we played teams in Tuscaloosa too, where it rained probably worse than that. And I had, as the kicker, had to line up to go kick an extra point, mind you. And we were probably standing in that much of water, still playing the game. And so when I kicked off a tee, it still barely got over the water that was congregated there. And so you can imagine how waterlogged it was. When I hit that ball with my foot, boy, did I have to put some power into it just to secure an extra point because it was that bad. So you can imagine what that does to quarterbacks at Auburn's A-Day. You can imagine what that does to wide receivers. I will say it was nice to see some size out there. Nick Mardner, watching him run around out there. Landon King back out there. And plenty of other familiar faces. All of those were good things there. WT says, I would think some of the sloppiness was due to the weather and also with some people not yet familiar with their teammates. I would more so lean on the weather. I would think these guys, after a month and a half together, because it started, it was probably a little less than a month and a half, but you get the point. I think it's been long enough to get inconsistencies down. But although, to your point, they've been throwing with, 3 different quarterbacks. So that can lead to some inconsistencies as well. I had a feeling this is who Thomas was talking about. True freshman Connor Lew absolutely stoned Jeffrey Imba on one play, but there were also many times Imba overpowered our O-line. Point being, Connor Lew is a dog. We've heard Coach Freeze talk about how excited he is about his future here. And what I just got done talking about a few minutes ago about sometimes we put these young recruits up on pedestals that are sometimes impossible for them to meet. But there was a feeling I got, and let me take you back several years, to Reese Dismukes, who came in as a freshman starter at center. Now, I think Connor is not going to be starting at center this year or guard, but maybe after this year of having Avery Jones, unless he wins it, will be the starter. But this feels a lot like that to me, where Reese Dismukes came in and was the guy from day one. That was going to be that thing that holds the offensive line together. That kind of feels like the way we're heading with that one. Kyle is Garo Yapremian. Obviously, I don't know him. Your hero is a kicker. Did you ever throw a pass like he did in the Super Bowl? No. We did have plays for situations where the kick or the hold goes awry. It's called fire. I think it's a very common. Yelled fire 1, fire 2, fire 3. Fire 1 was quarterback or the holder, who usually was the quarterback, keeps it and tries to run it himself. Fire 2 was me going out into the backfield to receive a pitch. Fire 3 was me getting the flats, try to get in the end zone to get a pass. So I didn't do anything myself. I was not trusted that much, but we had a fire situation happen once when I was a kicker, and it didn't work out well. It wasn't my fault, though. And I don't think it was even the quarterback's fault. I can't remember. I think he actually watches this. So, Dean, if you're watching this, sorry. I don't remember whose fault it was on that, but I distinctly remember one time him, my quarterback, getting the snap, and either it was a bad snap or he just bobbled it, and him yelling fire and me having to run out there. So, to bring it back to Auburn related, Alex McPherson is a small guy. So I hope we are not putting that guy in a situation where he can get just demolished. Oh, man. Thomas says, as a lineman, hearing fire was the worst possible thing. Well, imagine how the kicker felt. I come out there to do one thing, to put my foot into the ball and drive it through that field goal post. And then I'm told to do something else. Mind blowing. But I can imagine with y'all's backs to everything and you're hearing fire, you don't really know what's going to happen. So, point taken. But yeah, anyway. All right, look, we can come back to all that stuff. I want to talk about Buc-ee's. Can we talk about Buc-ee's for a second? Oh, right on cue from Facebook. What did you get from Buc-ee's? The great question is, or the real question is, what didn't I get from Buc-ee's? So let me give you guys full disclosure here. My wife is obsessed with Buc-ee's, loves it to the moon and back. I appreciate Buc-ee's, especially now that it's at Auburn, even more. So I would imagine my love for it will only grow even more. But for those of you that weren't aware, you can go see it all on our social media. Got plenty that's already been out on our YouTube channel here, but more. I got another video I want to do for you guys about the opening day of Buc-ee's. We were there all day. Well, majority of the day. From the opening at 6 a.m. All the way up till a little afternoon. I hung around, got sights and sounds, went to the opening ceremony. At the opening, I got a free fleece blanket that they gave the people who got there bright and early. I was probably like number 20 or something in there. My uncle who was with me, who's a huge Buc-ee fan himself, he got a T-shirt, I believe is the main thing. But when I was there, I will tell you this, and I want to do a video for everybody about the top like 5 things to get at Buc-ee's. If you need something for breakfast, go get a sausage and cheese kolache. Sausage and cheese kolache. Now, there are other kolaches there. Essentially what that is like, I call it just a closed off pig in a blanket with stuff in it. Other than that, it just outstanding. Outstanding. I also got for lunch that day, I think they call it their smoked club sandwich, which is like turkey and bacon, sun-dried tomatoes, a spicy mayonnaise. And I'm not a mayonnaise fan, but it was spicy mayonnaise and it was good. It was spicy. That's just that day what I got. But their cookies are good. I've had things at different Buc-ee's all the different times, but this is going to change the way people do Auburn now. I'm going to be honest. I need to know if there's a Buc-ee's out there that's that close in proximity to another college campus. Because if there's not, I don't think they're ready for what's about to happen in the fall. This place is about to get ransacked with not just people coming to get gas there, but just stuff. Like Thomas says here, pick me up one of the smokers next time you go. When I have the money, maybe. But Richard says I had a club for the first time, and it was a game changer. I'm telling you, Richard, I'm telling you that club. Now, their brisket is good. Their pulled pork is good. I've had their tacos. Jessica, I think, has had their burritos. What else? I've gotten just, traditional gas. So here's my normal routine. If I'm not there for like a meal, like passing through and I stop at a Buc-ee's, it's usually getting like a sweet and then an icy, the traditional gas station stop. But if I'm there for breakfast, I'm getting kolache and ice. I love ices. So I love the fact that there's a solid place that I don't have to worry about. And the flavors of ices. I think they got Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, their version of Coke, maybe Pepsi too. Does they have Pepsi too? Anyway, just they've got like blue raspberry flavored, green apple flavored, everything you could want. And then the tailgating stuff that they're going to get. And apparently there's an individual out there, maybe he's watching or sees this later, that does content strictly about Buc-ee's and came to the grand opening, goes all to the Buc-ee's. So he said that this was the first Buc-ee's that had this specific color scheme on the outside. I didn't notice the difference, but he clearly did. He's a pro at that. So there's that as well. So yeah, look, I know that it throws people off when they see me on an Auburn channel that does a lot of sports talking about that, but I think we push the boundaries on what is related to sports. And let me tell you, this will be related to sports. Game days will never be the same at Auburn, for me at least. I think they're going to have a slow summer just because everything's dead at Auburn in the summer, which sometimes is not a bad thing. But boy, howdy, when September gets here, woo, you ain't going to be able to get in there, I bet. I'll be getting there, but Anyway, that Buc-ee's is going to make bank on game weekends. It was a brilliant idea. Listen, if I saw the Auburn City Council get rid of that proposal, I would have just questioned their leadership. I think they knew what they had in an opportunity to bring that there. And boy, I think it's only going to show. Buc-ee's didn't pick Tuscaloosa, another thing that we've won. It's another win for the Iron Bowl competitions of everything. Call that the Iron Bowl of. Now, here's the funny thing. What if they can't, because I think there's too close proximity to the ones in Alabama are the Foley one that's down on the way to Gulf Shores, the Athens one up north, the Leeds one, and the Auburn one. I believe there are 4. I would say it would have been great if they could put one in Tuscaloosa, just to have the competition. We got it. And just let's be honest. Yes, people go through 20, but that corridor from Atlanta to Montgomery is much, in my opinion, is a much more lucrative route for them to take. Literally. This isn't the first time we're going to talk about Buc-ee's, and this isn't the last time. It's going to have a lot about that. For those of you that have seen it, please go check out. I just put out a video of raw footage. There was very limited edits in that. Just threw it out there with a lot of cool things. Richard, you and I are on the same wavelength. I was just about to talk about this. In there, I was literally about to say this. In there, you'll find a video that I did with him. He took me back. It's not that like I got this some exclusive area. I mean, you can't go back there as a guest unless you're invited, but to the chopping table and watch them cut up brisket, and he's explaining all that stuff. And he's a good hype man. And I forgot his name now. My goal is also, I hope to get one of their, I don't want to say, I don't know who it will be, but we'll call it their leadership team to come on a podcast and talk with me about just having one at Auburn, what they anticipate with that. I was going to give them a couple days this week to kind of catch their breath and then reach out to them. But I've already spoke to one that day. So when I tell you that we're not done talking about Buc-ee's here, we're not done talking about Buc-ee's. Go check out that video if you haven't. Check out the ceremony video too. I'm going to make what I'll call like a sizzle reel, a highlight with more edited things that I'm working on right now from that day, from that uncut reel, probably like 3 to 4 minutes or stuff. We'll put out not just here at YouTube, but on social media. But we're not done talking about Buc-ee's. So yes, I got to talk to him. It was great. Good stuff. And he's a good salesman there. Man, it took us that long to talk about that. What else haven't we had? We have talked a lot of basketball today. We have talked A-Day. We have talked Buc-ee's, recruiting, all the different things in between. So if there's something that we haven't quite hit yet, go ahead and put that in the chat right now. Let me go ahead and do this part of the show. We always want to remind you of what's coming up next here at E2C Network. The next scheduled thing, always be subscribed if you're not, because you never know when we'll post some stuff for you guys. But the next scheduled thing will be this Sunday night, the Auburn Experience, episode 31. Austin will not be here. We're working on getting a guest with us to hang out, and got a couple things in the works there. But 9 Eastern time this Sunday, the live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. And yes, we'll probably talk about Buc-ee's. If you haven't, please do subscribe so you can be part of that giveaway. You can be a channel member. You can be a Booster Club member. Both those things are $1 a month, the starting process for them. Check those out. One is on YouTube. One is over at patreon.com. Either way, you can help keep the lights on here at E2C Network, or by utilizing any of the links down there. And if you notice on YouTube, specifically down below, you should be seeing, if I'm not mistaken, at least if not on this video, another one, our shop with our shirts on it. You might want to go check some of those out down there. Anyway, we appreciate you guys, whatever you can do, whether it's smashing the like button, just being here, hanging out with us. It's always appreciated, you being part of our family, even if you can't help financially in some way, because we are mainly if you were, I don't want to call fans, but supporter driven and supported but we appreciate you just supporting us in whatever way you can, if that's just being here and smashing the like button. But check all those links out if you can, just so you can get information about them. All right. Final comments and questions, derogatory rebuttals. Get them in right now. We got about 5 minutes and we'll wrap up here. If not, I'll just rehash some of the things that we've already talked about. I hate to say this, but I did not know what Buc-ee's was until you started talking about it. I liked your video of the grant. Appreciate that. I hope it gave you some information about it, just what to expect. You know, there was so much going on. It was hard for me to really, I like when I do videos to kind of have a game plan. And I was literally just grabbing footage everywhere because it was just a madhouse in there, especially at the opening part. I am sad that Austin and I won't be able to talk about it together for another week. So we may, I'm sure I will mention it on this week's episode of the Auburn Experience podcast, but I want to save most of that talk with him because I know he and I will have some things to discuss with that. Thank you, Thomas, for that reminder. Rain or shine, good or bad, championship or 3-9 season. It is always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle. Let me go ahead and throw this out there. I know it's not the most popular topic. I did briefly mention them at the top of the show. This week is the NCAA championships tournament. And Auburn Elvis is down there right now, mainly covering it for SI, but obviously he does his podcast with us, and we appreciate that. So follow him for updates from there. Auburn, the last 2 seasons, has gotten knocked out in the first round after being the #1 seed, which is shocking. Once is a shock, twice is weird, 3 times would be what's going on, and not meaning like something needs to change, but just that's weird. So hopefully after a 5th consecutive SEC championship, they can put together in the postseason and win, which will be our 6th national title, 4th national title. Anyway, I'm sure if that happens, he'll be talking about it a lot. So please, please, please do follow that and keep up with that because we'll be mentioning that here. I am sure you will mention it. You have been talking about them as if you're a paid spokesman. I wish. From what I understand, Buc-ee's does not need any advertising. And you know, given the opportunity, I'll mention it to them. But I'd actually talked to someone who seems to be pretty much in the know with their corporate people, and they don't advertise at all, it seems like, outside of their billboards. And they're pretty limited on social media, too. They don't need to. This is a cult following. It really is a cult following. I'm being drug into it. So yes, we will give them free advertising simply because now they are part officially of the Auburn Experience. And boy, is it going to be interesting this fall. What else haven't we hit? I'm trying to think if there's any other odd topics that we haven't hit in our last few minutes together. Racking my brain right now because I mean we could there's a bunch of bigger topics that we just don't have time for, but wow, I'm just drawing a blank right now. Really, I think we're going to start getting some more news about some of these recruits making decisions. Really, the big thing is once this transfer portal opens back up for football, we're probably going to see a lot of departures for Auburn just in general. You see a lot of T-shirts with the Buc-ee's on it. Wonder what it was. Well, you're going to see a lot of them around Auburn now. So we'll have to all get used to that. Devin Cambridge. I talked a little bit about him, Richard, earlier on. I'm just having trouble buying into that. To me, that came from an article that was written, and maybe they're writing that Auburn was an option because he told them that. I didn't read the article, so I can't really speculate on whether it was true or not, but I just have trouble buying into you coming back. I hope I'm wrong, and we'll eat it if I'm wrong, because it would be cool to see that happen, but I don't know. Just it feels interesting to, because you left for a reason, and if the reason was just to play with your brother, that's great. I don't know. That one's just it it, 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 it smells of we needed interest we needed to pick up the conversation about the transfer portal, and that would get Auburn fans going. That's what it smells like to me. I'm probably wrong, but that's just what my sniffer is doing right now. My virtual sniffer, or my proverbial supposed sniffer. Why am I talking about a sniffer? Anyway, this took a weird turn. We are right at an hour time frame right here. So guys, thank y'all so much for being here. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Obviously, we talked about the things in the description to check out to help support us. Smash the like button. If you can do me one big favor, tell a friend about E2C Network. Get them here to YouTube, to Facebook, to Twitter, all those things. Help them, invite them to come be on the show on Wednesday nights. We'd love to continue growing this little family within the Auburn family and see our smiling faces outside of the good times, which this is usually a lot more packed when things are going well for Auburn sports and in season. But all of those things given, we appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us, and spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And we appreciate you being here. Hope to see you Sunday night for another live recording of the Auburn Experience Podcast, episode 31. Till we talk to you again, though, my friends, War Eagle.